Hey guys, what's going on? So we got another interview for you guys, but this time it's not Booth Junkie. It's not Mike Delgadio. It's another guy that I had the pleasure of meeting over in Atlanta, and then also had the pleasure of doing an interview with. And at the moment that this is being recorded, 3/28, March 28th, he was admitted into the hospital for some issues, and I just wanted to know that we're all thinking about him and we're all wishing him the best, and hope he gets out there quick enough so he can get back to his blog, Nethervoice. This guy is awesome, a blogger, an opinionated voice actor, an experienced voice actor, and somebody with a lot of good tips and a lot of good insight into the VO business. His name is Paul Strikwerda, and he is hilarious. He is a great guy, and I think you're going to like him. Here we go. So everybody, we have the beautiful, smiling, happy Paul Strikwerda, and he's here to talk about himself and his awesome website, nethervoices.com, and his amazing in-your-face blog about the reality of voiceover and many of the things with it. Paul, take it away.
Hey, Chad, how are you?
Good.
First of all, it's Nethervoice, because I only have one voice.
My apologies.
That's okay. Nethervoice.
The Nethervoice.
.com. But I'm really, really happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me. And hey, wasn't that VO Atlanta that we've just been to just an amazing conference? How about that?
I'm speechless. That was hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event that I'll get to experience multiple times in my lifetime. Yeah, next year for sure I'm going.
Oh my God, so many connections. There were about 670 voiceovers. I think it was the largest event on record. And I'm still wonderfully overwhelmed, and it was really, really good. It's not only just a place where you'd like to hang out with everybody that you always wanted to meet in voiceovers, but some phenomenal, phenomenal presentations and breakout sessions. I'm just so happy and proud to have been part of it. And we're going to do it again in 2019. If you were there at Voiceover Atlanta and you didn't know me, you might know me now, because I was the guy wearing clogs.
The little yellow clogs, Yeah.
I'm not wearing them now. Otherwise, I would have shown them to you. But, I thought, what do I need to do to stand out a little bit amongst those 600-700 voiceovers? And how do I, tell people, just by looking at me, that they can turn to me if they need Dutch voiceovers, for one thing. So I found these very comfy slipper clogs online. So, because don't get the wooden ones. They're terribly uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got those. I took them out on day one, and I got so many smiles from people that I decided to just leave them on for the entire conference.
I was at the Future of Online Voice Casting panel, and I remember seeing, I was like, business suit, clog slippers. Huh. I need to talk to this guy.
Yes. Well, maybe next time I'll wear like a Dutch business suit, but I will keep the clogs. I promise you that. That I'm telling you, when you're starting out as a voiceover, one of the big challenges is, how do people find me? It's like, clients are looking in this big haystack, and you're this one needle that they hope to discover. And it's the same at the conference. So you need to spend some money on marketing, because even though things are getting cheaper, like a good studio setup, you can get a reasonably okay microphone for under $300.
Yeah.
But marketing can get really expensive. But I'll tell you, those slipper clogs were the best $25 I've ever spent. And it brings me to really my place of birth, which is, of course, Holland. And I understand that you're usually interested in what made people think of becoming a voiceover. And I never really thought about becoming a voiceover. But when I connect all the dots backwards, I think that's always what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because when my mom and dad got their first Philips tape deck, I discovered that there was a microphone in there, and that could record the sound of my own voice. And I was like 6-7 years old, and I loved to read, and I loved listening to radio plays. So one of the first things I used that tape deck for was to read out loud the story of King Arthur and the Dark Knight, or something like that.
Yeah.
and I had all kinds of instruments around me. We had a very musical family that I used to do sound effects with. And so I recorded the whole story. It took about 20 minutes. And oh boy, do I wish I still had that tape. But
Oh
looking
yeah.
back, that was probably my very first voiceover experience when I was 6 or 7 years old. And then my mom thought that I would do really well reading to people. And my dad was a minister. And what does a minister's wife do? Well, she has she's a leader of the church for the kids, and she had me read to them. And then she said, there's this contest, this reading contest at the local library, and I think that you should really sign up for that because you've got a good voice and you know how to read stories. And that's what I did because at that age I did what my mother told me to do. And I won that first contest.
Awesome.
And another one and another one and another one. So little did I know that eventually would become my career. The only thing is that I get paid to do that now. So yeah, it started with this little boy and his tape deck, and then going into libraries and into church services.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I loved reading out loud. Whenever somebody, or not even high school, like elementary school, middle school, whenever somebody was asked to read out loud, I was the first person with my hands up because I loved the presentation of it.
Yes. And there's nothing like seeing the response of people when they listen to your voice and you really tell a compelling story.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the only downside of the wonderful work that you and I do, because as you know, it can be a little bit of a lonely existence, in this isolation booth. Other people have to commit terrible crimes in order to sit in a cell, for hours on end and talk to themselves. And we do that voluntarily.
Yeah.
And so you don't always see where things land or how they land. But when you start telling stories for especially younger people and older kids too, and older folks too, I sometimes go into retirement homes and read out loud. That's just so gratifying.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was at a retirement home a couple weeks ago, and I never actually thought about doing that as like asking them, hey, would you guys mind if I came out one time and did a reading or something like that if they would like it?
Right.
So that's not a bad idea.
My gosh, and I think there's such a great need because what I discovered is that people there tend to be quite lonely, and the same in hospitals. I remember when my daughter, she's 15 years old now, but when she was 4 years old, she had cancer, and we went to CHOP, which is the leading children's hospital in Philadelphia, and there was always story hour. And the kids were just captivated by this wonderful storyteller who was a volunteer. And he came in and he told stories for about half an hour. And in those 30 minutes, the kids forgot everything about how much in pain they were and their upcoming operation or their recovery. And that just tells us so much about the power of stories and the voice and the importance of the work that you and I do.
Yeah.
And we tend to forget that sometimes because we don't always know where our stories land. But even if and I told people this at Voiceover Atlanta, let's say you're an audiobook narrator. You never know how and where and to what extent your voice will move people, and sometimes to tears.
Yeah. Man, I remember as a child, being really influenced by a lot of voice actors and a lot of big performances in video games, because back in the, right when the 90s hit, all, video games were bursting, because originally it was all PC, and then now you had the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and the PlayStation came out a little after that, and then the video game boom was starting right in the beginning of the 90s. So there was so many performances that were, as a young child, I was not understanding any of the aspects that were going on with these more mature storylines, and they were bringing me like this, what is love, what is romance, what is war, what is, these crazy, like, mutually assured nuclear deterrence, like, that's crazy topics that.
What were you watching at that age?
My goodness. Well, there were so many. Video gaming in its nature is so adult with some of the themes that it was like making me grow up at an accelerated rate. Not in the negative way that a lot of people talk about. Like, I wasn't, killing hookers and selling drugs in my video games or nothing like that. But like,
No.
it was moving me at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of
And if you turn off the sound and all the voices, it's images, and no matter how captivating they may be, without actually voice actors, I don't think they would make those billions and billions of dollars that the video game industry is making right now. It's phenomenal, and the growth is just explosive.
You know what? You just made me write something down, actually, that I never thought about. Calling the two local... I'm in a very small town, and a lot of people say in small towns, how do you become a voice actor out here? I have to be in LA to be a voice actor. I spent 2 hours yesterday walking around the town with a stack of business cards in my pocket, and by the end of the day, I had a live narration, a live announcing gig, and free passes to a convention as a guest and a panelist. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, let's see what else I can do. And I'm going to be doing that later today to talk to some people at the library. But I never thought to go into the local schools, like where my kids are at. I have a 9-year-old. She goes to a school nearby. And saying, hey, I'm a voice actor, and I would love to send you a little bit, like a little character bit. I can write a script and stuff and voice all the characters for, a 30-minute segment for some of the kids sometimes. Because, they have stuff like that, like the, an assembly with, like, the reptile man or the puppet, puppeteer, something like that. That would be pretty cool, actually. I'd love to do that for the kids.
I think that's just such a great tip because, because it's so easy to connect with people from all over the world. People forget to connect with people who are very close to home, and that could be your best market.
Yeah.
And because it's right in front of your nose, you don't even think about it. Yeah. And I'll tell you one of the things that I did that helped my career, and it totally blew me away, was that I started working as a volunteer for my local farmers market. I live in a town called Easton, Pennsylvania, and we have the oldest continuously running open-air farmers market in the entire United States. We've been there since 1752, so we're now in our 265th year. It's incredible that people have congregated in Center Square for centuries. And when they heard that I was a voice actor, they said, well, you come to the farmers market every Saturday, and we need somebody to do some announcing for us because we don't have billboards. Yeah. But, Farmer Joe has his specials, his zucchinis and his cucumbers, and we always have local music. So they said, how about it? And first of all, I made, again, that personal connection that I was lacking by being secluded in my studio.
Yeah.
Because you can actually see the response of people when he announced that there's a deal on the raw milk, People go over there straight away. Or when there's lost kids or lost husbands or lost cell phones, things like that. So it's phenomenal to be surrounded by people. And we get about, on a good day, on a Saturday in the summer, we get between 4,000 and 5,000 people.
Holy cow.
And my voice can just be heard all around town. Well, that's great advertising.
Yeah.
And so in my own backyard, I found some of the, more valuable clients that never knew that I existed. And they never knew that I never knew that they existed.
And I live in a small town that is a logging town, or it used to be a logging town. And so I live in the middle of the woods right now, which is great for my studio. But you wouldn't think there's much people here. But then I realized, man, Mason County is large, but it's not that populated. How hard would it be for me to become the voice of Mason County? And I'm like, I never thought to market myself in that aspect, because you got all these online pay-to-plays, and then you got all these big voice actors who are like, guys like John DiMaggio and Nolan North and Jim Cummings and Tara Strong that are like we'll say the famous voice actors. Mm-hmm. But even within the community, you break in and you realize there are a lot of other, famous, very, reputable, notable names in this business, but they don't have that kind of outside, average person kind of, I'll say clout, which is a shame, but of course it's kind of the nature of the beast,
Right.
You're popular in your community, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now.
I think that's a great example of how people unconsciously limit themselves.
Yeah.
And it's totally unnecessary. Even when you say, well, we have these greats and they've been doing this for years and years. They've built this reputation. And what they're really saying is, well, I live in this small town and I don't think that I have the caliber or the quality or the contacts to make it in this business. But I think that when I look at the people that I coach, and it's one of the side businesses that I have as a voiceover, so many of them come from small towns, and they have big dreams, and the only limit that they put themselves on is really their mindset. So if you really want to make it big, all these people that we now know, including the on-camera talent, they come from small places. Not everybody comes from LA, and yet they've made it because they really gave themselves a chance, and they really thought that, why not? If Tara Strong can do it, if Jim Cummings can do it, I can certainly do it.